From week 0 of college football to the Major League Baseball season, nearing the end of August with only one more month, that September, of the regular season left to go, Mark Zinno does it all for us on this Wednesday on the Early Line. Zinno, as you came onto the show, we asked what you were frustrated by. Was it the 12-inning defeat for your Yankees last night to the Cleveland Guardians, where the Guardians scored 6 runs in the top of the 12th? You said not so much. Maybe, hey, if things go haywire for the Yanks, Aaron Boone will finally be let go up in the Bronx. But I do want to ask you from a handicapping perspective about the significance of this game and this series. Again, Cleveland wins 9-5 in 12 innings. You know, with how tightly compact the top of the standings are around the American League in the AL East division for the Yankees against the Orioles, and to claim that number 1 overall seed in the AL. The Guardians now have the advantage there. The Yanks backed by a half game of Baltimore in the American League East. Does it add on any more magnitude or significance to these games the Yankees will play this week at home against Cleveland?
Well, at least it tells you where you stack up against them in your current form, which is closest to the regular season than if they had played these series back in April or May, and teams look totally different. The Yankees, we know, look totally different back in April and May, and the hot start that they got, comparatively speaking, to where they are now. I mean, you know, Cleveland, for all intents and purposes, has been probably the most consistent team outside of Baltimore in baseball this year, as far as where they've gone. They hit a little bit of a lull coming out of the All-Star break, but for the most part, this is a team that has the best bullpen and best closing situation of any team heading to the postseason. And that's the one edge that I would get over them. I've said it repeatedly. Look, the Yankees went into a game against the Tigers on Sunday Night Baseball. Look what Clay Holmes did. He blew a lead, and the Yankees lost the game. That kind of thing that happens in a playoff series will end you. Even if it's just one game, it literally could turn the series around. So with Cleveland having the best closer and the best bullpen, they have a decided edge over everybody else. Even if their bats aren't in great position, they've got good enough starting pitching as well that I believe that this is a real measuring stick for the Yankees as to how close they are to actually getting out of the American League and getting to a World Series, because Cleveland seems to have set the standard. I think the Yankees believe they can hang with Baltimore just because, again, Baltimore has their own bullpen and closer issues, just like the Yankees do. Cleveland isn't facing that scenario.
If we are taking a look at the AL in totality here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, there are 5 teams at a 10-1 price or less to win that AL pennant. That's the Twins, Guardians, Astros, Orioles, and Yankees. Now, up top, obviously, it's the Yankees and the Orioles. But look at the Houston Astros at a plus 430 price. Let me ask this question, Mark. Outside of the Yankees and the Orioles, who right now considered the top dogs, are we trusting the Houston Astros now, a team that I left for dead a month and a half ago, now surging, looks like they're going to win the AL West, but I still can't buy back into the Astros. Do you have a pathway to victory or that you see for the Houston Astros here?
Yeah, I do. And again, I told you guys back in the middle of June, I thought Houston was a great bet to win the AL West. When you look at adding Framber Valdez, first of all, at the top of the rotation, they had Yusei Kikuchi, who has been very good since coming over. Not only that, Hunter Brown and Ronel Blanco have quietly had fantastic seasons. They have the best starting staff, all deference to the Cleveland Guardians, who have been very, very good in the starting pitching role. But they have the best starting depth, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of any pitching team in the American League. They just do. Like that's what their strength is. And obviously, look, if Houston somehow, I don't think they'll be able to snake home field advantage from anybody, but at least in the first couple of rounds getting to the ALCS, guess what? They're going to have home field advantage, a place with a ton of runs. It took them a while to get going, but they've also got the postseason experience. They've also got players who have been through this ringer several times before. Yeah. You know what? The Guardians and the Yankees and the Orioles don't have a lot of deep postseason experience because guess what? They haven't gotten there. So from that standpoint, these are teams that are all kind of chasing Houston down as far as, trying to be a team that can upset the apple cart for them to win the World Series. Texas pulled it off last year, but I don't think any of these teams, I wouldn't bet any of these teams head-to-head in Houston in the ALCS right now.
Interesting. And I would wonder to see if Houston made it to an 8th consecutive ALCS appearance, what would their odds be at that stage? That's where the Astros have been, and we'll see the addition to some depth in that starting rotation as Justin Verlander makes his return today. He was sidelined since the early parts of June. Now let's flip it over to the National League. Also making his return to the bump yesterday, that was Reynaldo Lopez for Atlanta. He had not pitched since the end of July in his first outing since. 5 innings of work, only allowing a single earned run to the Phils, striking out 10. The Braves win the opener of their midweek set against their divisional foe in Philadelphia, 3-1 the victory for the Braves at home. Zinno, I asked you about significance of these games. Yes, in a regular season set, even deeper into the season for the matchup with the Yankees and the Guardians in the American League. It's not necessarily the significance of the result yesterday for Atlanta as a whole, but how important was it to get Reynaldo Lopez back looking as he did?
It's got to feel good for the Braves to at least be able to take one from the Phillies and not get swept, and at least at a minimum, they know they'll only lose one game in the standings if the Phillies end up taking the other two. But, look, the Braves are a mash unit. They're a dead man walking right now. The only thing hurt more than the Braves is my bankroll and my feelings after getting dumped in 12th grade by Christine. So, at this point, the Braves are the only thing still walking that is representing a major league team that's not really a major league team. I mean, they just don't have – their opening day lineup to now, guys, is a joke. Like, it's literally nothing the same. So they're going to make the playoffs because, again, I just don't think that there's anybody there who could take it away from them when it comes down to it. But everybody in Atlanta right now is kind of thrown in the towel that this team has any real chance to do anything.
Yeah, the Braves, a 2.5-game lead over the New York Mets for that third and final National League wild card spot. It was just a game and a half yesterday, but the Mets lost to Baltimore and the Braves get a big win over Philadelphia. The Braves still the third best price in the National League pennant chase. The Dodgers, the favorites at plus 160. The Phils less than $1 behind at plus 250. Quickly, Zinno, I would assume that you would rather bet on the Padres, the Brewers perhaps, maybe even the Diamondbacks rather than Atlanta.
I locked in the Padres last week to win the NL and the World Series. It's the hottest team in baseball right now. I'm not going to turn my back on them, even though I bet against them last night. It didn't go well, so at least we're trending in the right direction both ways.
Yeah, a victory over Minnesota last night, courtesy of Jurickson Profar in a big 8th inning. The Padres have won 13 of their last 16. We'll preview some games on this Wednesday next. A full Wednesday card around Major League Baseball, including some day games and the return of one Justin Verlander for Houston. Mark Zinno here for a third consecutive segment to round out our number 2 with some MLB breakdowns on this Wednesday. We start in H-Town.
Probably only going to go 3 or 4 innings, right? Like, you just know he's not going to be pushed too hard when he comes with his first start back. So it'll be about the Astros bats and can they get to Cooper Criswell, which is quite the name. But beyond that, if Verlander can, take care of business here early on, you also have to trust the fact that the Astros bullpen, which is good, one of the better ones in baseball when it comes to ERA and WHIP, should be able to take care of business the rest of the way out. If the Red Sox don't score early against Verlander, don't like their chances here.
Take a look at a late night game tonight, 10-10 first pitch, 9:29, 9:30 in the rotation. That's Seattle and Los Angeles. Gilbert versus Flaherty. Heavy favorite here for the Dodgers, minus 178 currently at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and a total of 7.5. When I look at these two teams latch up and I say to myself, look at that, another quality pitcher on the mound for the Seattle Mariners, and it almost doesn't matter who the pitcher on the opposite side is because, Mark, they can't hit the baseball. Tell me about tonight's effort because Flaherty is a marquee starter for the Dodgers, but I just look at that Seattle lineup and say, I don't know if I can trust them to get 3 runs, therefore I don't know how I take them on a day-to-day basis.
And that's the problem. It's impossible to bet on Seattle because their offense is untrustworthy. They're just not a team that you can back. Now, Flaherty hasn't faced the Mariners yet this year, so that probably gives him even a little bit more of an edge with Flaherty on the bump for LA. And since coming over, Flaherty hasn't exactly been fantastic. He gave up 4 runs in 5 2/3 against the Pirates. He gave up 3 runs in 5 innings against Milwaukee in a game that they lost. So maybe you hope that Flaherty not had other great start. It's not a route that I would go. I still tend to think more than that, with Logan on the road where he's a little bit worse. All these Seattle pitchers are worse on the road than they are at home at AT&T, Safeco, whatever it's called now, T-Mobile. I forget which phone runs that park. But anyway, so the idea that the idea that Seattle is a team to back. Look, again, back them first 5, right? Because at this rate, if they're not scoring early, they're not scoring late. And that's just the reality of it. Why sweat it out for 9 innings? If they can't lead after 5 and keep the push in your back pocket, then why even worry about it?
The Dodgers looking for a sweep and heavily favored to do so. Jack Flaherty in his first outing for LA, 6 innings of shutout baseball. In his last 2, he has allowed 7 earned runs. The Dodgers have won 2 of the 3 that Flaherty has started for them in Los Angeles. That's the last game on the card tonight, late night in Los Angeles. The first game up is the rubber match of this midweek series between Baltimore and New York. The Mets play host to the Orioles as a slight home favorite once again. The Amazons have actually been favored at home, and now all 3 of the games in this series against Baltimore, they won game 1, walk-off courtesy of Francisco Alvarez. Yesterday, Baltimore responds, plating 9 in a 9-5 victory. So, Zinno, who takes the rubber match with some day baseball up in Queens?
Sean Manaea is on the mound, who looks like a human Cabbage Patch doll. And the Orioles hit lefty pitching very well. And that's sort of the problem here for Manaea, who has been able to take care of teams that don't hit lefties well, but the Orioles do hit lefties well. The problem for the Orioles is that Cole Irvin is starting, making a start for the first time, I think, in a while now. It's been for him. But the Orioles starting pitching continues to be a little bit more perplexing. Now Zach Eflin goes on the DL here. I told you they've got bullpen issues. I don't like the spot for the Orioles here. It's fun to take them as a dog, though. I'll tell you that much. I mean, they're much more amenable to take as a dog and hope their offense comes through. But I just don't see it happening for them. And Cole Irvin, they've lost 7 consecutive starts with him on the mound this year. His team has. So, again, it's one of those spots where, do you trust Cole Irvin here in a spot start situation to be able to get this done? And I just don't know that you do.
Baltimore, one of 7 teams around the bigs that has a winning record straight up as an underdog. They are 14-12, including the victory last night, 9-5 over New York. Mark Zinno, we appreciate the time. Thank you for being here on this Wednesday. Next week, the Mouth in the South is back for some college football conversations. Hour 3 comes your way up next here on SportsGrid. Live right here on this Wednesday on the early line on SportsGrid. The end of August is near, the final month of the Major League Baseball season, then on the horizon with sights already on October. Our MLB insider, Craig Mish, the host of Newswire each and every day starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, joins us now live here on this Wednesday on the early line. Craig, as always, thanks for being here.
Yeah, sure. Big announcement, by the way. The World Baseball Classic just made their announcement for the 2026 tournament. A lot of the games going to be played here in South Florida again, semifinals and finals as well. I know we're still a couple of years away from that, but if you guys remember, there was a lot of fun to watch a couple of years ago.
By the way, Ben,
electric
real quick,
atmospheres.
Yeah, I just wanted to butt in on this topic. Based on the SportsGrid producers here, is that next year, 2026's World Baseball Classic? When is that? Is that 2 years, 3 years, next
26,
year? When is it?
26. Yes.
Okay. All right. Just want to get that. There we go. We're set.
Craig, we had some small confusion, and we needed some clarity this morning as we had some of the years that were slightly different from the projected odds of this year in the pre. But because we're not going to get into that right now. What we're going to get into is the biggest headlines around Major League Baseball as we go to each and every single bag around the diamond. It's time for Daily Basis. Craig, yesterday the O's bouncing back and evening up a series in New York against the Mets, but do so with some bad news for another starting pitcher, this one newly acquired. That's Zach Eflin from the Tampa Bay Rays ahead of the trade deadline. Eflin is now added to a long list of arms and, frankly, players on the IL for Baltimore. Craig, are you concerned at all about the Orioles starting staff entering playoff baseball, where Baltimore right now currently the second best price to win the American League pennant?
Yeah, look, I think you could make the case, as we've talked about before, that maybe the Orioles in the fans' minds didn't do enough at the trade deadline. They just added Eflin and Trevor Rogers. Rogers has been completely ineffective, and now Eflin hurt, so I guess they have to hope that he could come back at some point. I don't know how serious this injury is. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's concerning, Ben, but this is the model for the Orioles right now. It's going to be rare for them to kind of go all in. The closest they've come in the last few years is getting Corbin Burns, and probably he's going to be gone at the end of the season. So Baltimore is certainly playing to get in what I'm now calling the postseason tournament for Major League Baseball. And look, I think the American League is kind of wide open at this point. That's a major injury for a guy that in the postseason is going to throw 6 innings, 3 earned runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts, and then the bullpens decide the game. It's kind of who Eflin is.
Yeah, taking a look here, too. Like, we expect big things out of the Baltimore Orioles. They don't really fly under the radar, which brings up the next team, the Milwaukee Brewers. Oh, no, Christian Yelich down for the season with a back injury. Write this baseball team off, Craig. Winners of 6 straight games, 73 wins on the season. And before you can blink now, 11.5-game lead over the Chicago Cubs and 12 games over the Cardinals. This team is built for postseason baseball, Craig, because it feels like every day it's 2-1, 3-2, 4-3 victories here. What can we anticipate from the Milwaukee Brewers, and could they be in contention to do some damage here in the NL?
Yeah, I think it is possible. I would not have them as the favorites, but I think this is probably, Donnie, one of the teams in baseball that has been doubted from the beginning of the season right up until now. And that becomes a dangerous team at some point because they're like having the chip on their shoulder type team. No one believes in us. But if you go back to May, June, we were talking about the Brewers. Well, eventually someone's going to catch them and pass them. It'll be the Reds. It'll be the Cubs, maybe the Pirates. None of them did. Impressive season. I mean, is this team going to be 30 games over 500 at the end of the year? Yeah. It just goes to show you. I mean, guys, think about this for a second. The president of baseball operations, David Stearns, he left to go to the Mets. Their manager, Craig Counsell, the highest paid manager in the history of baseball, goes to the Cubs. And they're just as good, if not better, without them. That just tells you the hierarchy and everything going on in player development, drafting, et cetera, in that organization is second to none in the National League. They've done a great job again.
The Brew Crew right now, 21 games above 500, 73 and 52. Everybody else in the National League Central, 2 games below 500 or worse. The 11.5 game advantage for Milwaukee so strong. The odds makers at FanDuel have said, hey, the division is done. They have taken the odds off the board. The first division of the 6 around the bigs to have the odds off the board at this stage of the MLB season. 5-game lead now for the Houston Astros atop the American League West. And could it grow larger today with the return of Justin Verlander for the Astros? His first start since June 9th. The veteran righty back on the bump for Houston. He has made 10 starts this year. There you see the numbers. Craig, what should we expect out of Justin Verlander at this stage of his career, at this stage of the season for the Astros?
Yeah, this is very similar to another guy who played for Houston, who would come in middle of the season, finish off, not in the Hall of Fame, but should be, and that's Roger Clemens. This is a very similar situation. What they're hoping for is by the end of September, Verlander can give them 6 innings of 2-run ball with 5 or 6 strikeouts and turn it over to the bullpen. Verlander has another year or 2 left. Probably the injuries have creeped in. Yeah. I see no reason why he can't do it. They've been overly cautious with him, but very similar to Kershaw in LA, these veteran pitchers, that's all they're asking for. Just get us in the postseason, pitch game 2 or game 3, and then we'll take our chances with the pen.
2 teams fighting for wild card positioning here. The Minnesota Twins and the San Diego Padres going to play at 6:40 Eastern, which means an afternoon set out on the West Coast at 3:40 p.m. Slight favorite towards San Diego. 8.5 is the total. It's been an entertaining series so far. Who's going to stay in this series, which means San Diego staying hot or Minnesota? Give me one of these victories out here.
Yeah, I love watching Matt Waldron pitch for San Diego because he's a knuckleballer. And, I still, for the life of me, can't figure out why at the youth age no one is teaching the knuckleball. It just feels like if you're little and you can't throw 100, why not try that to see if you can succeed? On the flip side, Woods Richardson, the pitcher for the Twins, has been super effective, a big surprise this season. But guys, his numbers are a lot better in Minneapolis than they are away from home. So I'll lean toward the Padres today in a close game.
The Padres looking for a sweep over the Twins. San Diego has won 13 of its last 16. Best record since the All-Star break for the Pods, 22-6. Craig Mish, as always, thank you for being here on this Wednesday on the early line. We'll see you in about 40 minutes on Newswire here on Sports. Just like Tuesday, it's a full Wednesday slate around Major League Baseball. A sampling of afternoon games, but only really 4 in their local time zones. But we start with game number 2 up in the Bronx, a game that will impact the American League East and American League standings overall. The Yankees and the Guardians. It was a long game last night, 4 hours and 5 minutes, the longest of 2024 in MLB. The Guardians victorious 9-5 in 12 innings. They won outright as an underdog. They're a pretty hefty underdog once again today against Nestor Cortes and the Bombers. 8.5 is the total today up in the Bronx. Minus 184 now on the money line for the New York Yankees. What do you like here in game number 2?
Probably the better pedigree pitcher, I guess you could say, on the mound here for the Yankees with Nestor Cortes. His last 30 days don't really show up as all that glamorous. An ISO power number of 180, which is slightly elevated against, and a 337 weighted on base percentage, once again, slightly elevated. But if we do take a look at Nestor Cortes at home this year in Yankee Stadium, 73 and 2/3 innings pitched, an ERA right around 3, and a very manageable xFIP number in that 3.9 range. So he should be able to keep you in this ballgame. Now, you do have some hitters out there that have really been focused on left-handed pitching for the Cleveland Guardians. That's obviously Jose Ramirez. And take a look at David Fry resurfacing once again. But look at Ramirez. He's a switch hitter, so he'll be batting from the right side. His last 30 at-bats against left-handed pitching, an ISO of 517. So somebody that you might want to put on that radar to maybe hit a home run. Cooler temperatures still in the Bronx again today in the 60s, and that same right field wind about 7 or 8 mile an hour going out at this point. But if we do look at the other side, Joey Cantillo, not very much, business here in Major League Baseball. Only 58 batters that he's faced over the past 30 days, but look at his numbers. ISO against, 308. Weighted on base percentage against, 411. And if you just take a look at those left-handed batters like Juan Soto went deep yesterday, a 500 ISO against. Now, granted, only 16 batters he's faced from lefties, but you look at the first 3 batters in the lineup against left-handed pitching for the Yankees over the past month, that's Torres, Soto, and Judge, all high ISO power numbers and weighted on base percentages. The Yankees should be a favorite today against the Cleveland Guardians, and they should handle their business.
The total went over yesterday because of extra innings, only 6 runs in regulation, 8.5 is that number today. Low-scoring game and a pitcher's duel yesterday in the start of the midweek set out in Atlanta between the Braves and the Phillies. Reynaldo Lopez got the better of Zach Wheeler and the Phils. 3-1 the final. Atlanta victorious in the opening game. Game number 2, another pitcher's duel is expected. A tight margin expected. Minus 108 on both sides as of this moment. Total has dropped down to 7.5 as well. It is a pick'em currently on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So DRS, tell us who wins this game in Atlanta.
I mean, honestly, again, it should be the Phillies. Max Fried, who's had a decent season, but really not over the past month and a half. That ERA approaching 5.5. But you're looking at that Philadelphia Phillies lineup and saying, what gives? But let's just start with Aaron Nola on the mound. He's a decent pitcher, we know that. A 1-2 punch that if the Phillies get to the playoffs, which we're anticipating, along with Zach Wheeler, one of the best in baseball. He does struggle a bit with left-handed batters, but that's not even what the focus I want here. Remove Marcell Ozuna and Matt Olson's name from that Braves lineup. It's Michael Harris, Ramon Laureano, Sean Murphy, Jared Kelenic, Orlando Arcia, Gio Urshela, and Whit Merrifield. It's basically like a cast-off of characters from other baseball teams that just couldn't make it, and they just converged on Atlanta because of all of the injuries. Now, they won yesterday. They got a great pitching performance out of Lopez. Zach Wheeler was fine, but if you are the Phillies, if you can just put up 4 runs tonight, you should be able to win this game going away. And you say, that should be easier. Well, they scored 1 last night, and were completely trash at the plate. But you have to stick with the statistics. To me, the better pitcher on the mound is Aaron Nola. The better lineup by a wide margin is the Philadelphia Phillies. And look at that price point. It is cheap. It was cheap yesterday. It's there for a reason. The Phillies understand have been struggling, but you're just looking at the pitching matchup and the lineups per se. It should be a Phillies win.
The Phils entered this set having won 4 of their last 5, now just 8-9 in the month of August. Atlanta 9-9 in this month. They have won 6 of their last 8, including 3 victories in a row. The Phillies still maintain a 6-game advantage in the National League East, but this more important for Atlanta for holding on to that 3rd and final National League wildcard spot, a 2.5-game lead over the New York Mets. The Dodgers looking for a sweep late night in Los Angeles against the Seattle Mariners. We showed you the odds earlier. They are only growing stronger now, minus 180. The Dodgers a home money line favorite against Logan Gilbert and Seattle, total at 7.5. It's Jack Flaherty Flaherty making his fourth start in a Dodgers uniform. The Dodgers have won 2 of the 3. Flaherty has earned 2 wins in his 3 outings for LA, but he's given up 7 earned runs in his last 2 starts.
If we're just taking a look at those analytical numbers over the past 60 days, on the card today, got 25 pitchers, minimum of 20 innings pitched over those 60 days. Number 2 and number 3 on the card, they're pitching in this game going against each other. That's Logan Gilbert and Jack Flaherty. xFIP numbers, 3.07 for Gilbert, Flaherty at a 3.20. So we're expecting them to keep it down. But really the focus isn't, every day I look and it's like, wow, the Mariners have another solid pitching prospect on the mound today. Solid veteran guy, solid young guy. It doesn't matter. They just can't hit their way right now out of a paper bag. Yeah. And sometimes they'll bust out 6 or 7 runs, and next 3 to 4 games won't cross the 3 threshold. If you're going to tell me today, once again, I'm getting that same Mariners offense that we expect to see on a day-to-day basis where it's like, oh, hopefully we can put together 3 or 4 home runs to score runs. I don't understand that's going to happen. Flaherty's a quality pitcher in a pitcher's ballpark against a team that struggles to hit. Don't you automatically just go to the Dodgers at this point, as we had like Mark Zinno on a little bit earlier? Just the trust level. And I understand you're not supposed to do this as a handicapper, but boy, oh boy, if you just, hey, let me just keep trusting the numbers and go back to the well with the Mariners against a solid pitcher, it hasn't worked out in their favor, and I don't think it does again tonight.
Seattle just 17-24 when booked as an underdog this year. You would think it's a right price for an all-star on the bump for Seattle in Logan Gilbert against a guy in Jack Flaherty who's been mediocre, at least in his 3 starts in Los Angeles. But there's a reason the price is the price as of this moment. The Dodgers looking for a sweep. They've won 8 of their last 11. San Diego looking for a sweep at home over the Twins. 3:40 p.m. Pacific time. So a little bit of afternoon baseball out there in Southern California in the 3rd and final game between the Padres and the Twins today. San Diego, a slight home favorite, -126. Over understands at 8.5. Will San Diego sweep Minnesota this afternoon?
I'm taking him again. I am. The one thing that Matt Waldron does struggle a little bit with, it's left-handed batter. So he's going to get a pretty good look at a couple quality guys. Castro, Larnach, Wallner, Kepler, Julian look to be lefties in the lineup as we anticipate today. And this game, you might be dealing with a little bit of the shadows out there in San Diego by the end of this game, but I don't think that matters. I look at that price point and say, why wouldn't you just be taking San Diego at this point? If we're taking a look at Woods Richardson on the road this season outside of Minnesota, which is a true pitcher's ballpark. Now, granted, you said, well, Donnie, he's going to San Diego, which also is a pitcher's ballpark. Not the same batting eye that you look at from a batter's perspective, and the same thing with pitchers here. Sometimes you're just more comfortable at home, but on the road, 52 2/3 innings pitched, an ERA of 4.27, but a higher xFIP number of 4.75. To me, the Padres just continue to look and stay hot. They're at home today. I'll go with the Pods.
San Diego has won 13 of its last 16, looking for the sweep over the Twins. The best mark since the All-Star break, 22-6 for the Padres. A substantial advantage for that top National League wildcard spot. Trying to catch the Dodgers, but LA knows they need to keep pace with San Diego, and the Arizona Diamondbacks not all that far behind. A 3-game lead for LA in the National League West. A rubber match today at Citi Field between the Mets and the Orioles. 1 minute left in this segment, DRS, so if you have more to say, we can hit it on the other side. But the Amazons, a home favorite once again in the series finale at Citi against the Baltimore Orioles. Sean Manaea gets the start for the Mets, total 8.5. Who takes the rubber match? Who wins the set?
Probably going to be the New York Mets. Like Cole Irvin, I don't think has pitched in 3.5 weeks at this point and wasn't very good. It's pretty amazing where Baltimore is a good team, and every day on the mound, it seems like they're getting worse and worse pitching. It's like, okay, you got Corbin on the mound, and then the next 4 to 5 days, it's like, we just hope we can actually be competitive. I think that low price here, which opened as a slight favorite towards Baltimore, now over to the Mets, makes some sense. The Mets should win this game.
Dean Kramer was really good yesterday. 6 innings of work, only allowing a single earned run before the Mets made it interesting against Baltimore's bullpen. That's the rubber match, and there's more MLB breakdowns up next. Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid, all around this Wednesday slate in Major League Baseball. All 3 of the incredibly hot teams that keep winning games in the National League West, that's the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks, looking for a midweek series sweep today. The Arizona Diamondbacks take on the Miami Marlins. They're a road favorite in South Florida at -164 against the Fish. The Diamondbacks were swept over the weekend in Tampa. Will they sweep Miami today?
Yeah, let's go over some numbers in this game because this is one that you want to focus on. 6:40 p.m. Make sure you're in front of your TV. Why? Because Roderick Munoz is on the mound for the Marlins. If we just take a look at in totality his past 60 days, he has 42 and a third innings pitched here. Let me just make sure. Yep, that's correct. His ERA, Ben, 5.95. His xFIP number 5.48. You're loving this already, but now you say to yourself, like, well, Donnie, it might be because he gets hammered on the road. Like he's usually pitching in that absolute cavern aircraft carrier, which is so hard to hit home runs in down in South Beach. Now you take a look at his home statistics this season, Ben. 36 and 2/3 innings pitched, a worse ERA of 6.63, and an xFIP number of close to 5.6 here. So it doesn't matter. He's pitching one of the best pitching ballparks in America and can't get anybody out. Now comes to town here against them once again, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Take away Kevin Newman, who's due to bat ninth today, who has a low ISO power number and a low weighted on base percentage. If we just take a look at the weighted on base percentages here of right-handed pitching going up against the Diamondbacks, 412, 386, 539, 478, 358, 479, 426, and 497. We should be having a lot of fun and betting good money on RBI props, base hit props, and the Arizona Diamondbacks to absolutely wreck Roderick Munoz tonight.
Yeah, I could see it happening. That's a lot of runs potentially being scored for Arizona. Total only 8.5 today in Miami. Another day baseball game. Another NL West team looking for a series sweep. That should always be the equation if you are playing the Chicago White Sox. And that's the story for the Giants. Logan Webb on the bump. San Francisco greater than a $2 favorite. Minus 230, that updated number against the White Sox. Garrett Crochet does start on the other side. It's why the total is 7. But San Francisco trying to stay in the NL wildcard chase. 3.5 games back of Atlanta. Will it be a series sweep over Chicago?
I love Logan Webb. And if you just take a look at his past 60 days xFIP number, he's third on the card out of 25. You know you're going to get a very good performance out of him. But having said that, do you know who's number 1 on the analytical card today? It's Garrett Crochet. So you have the let's just say 1 and 4 out of the top 5 going head-to-head in a true pitcher's ballpark today. But also, the analytical number, 2.66 xFIP over the past 60 days for Crochet. That's unbelievably good. His ERA, Ben? Almost 5.5. It doesn't even compute. So let's just take a look at some splits here and say, well, what does Crochet do on the road? Is he better at home? How about on the road? If the card was today where everybody was pitching on the road, he's number 2 out of a card of 27 with an xFIP number of 3.30. So I look at that number and I figure that Webb is probably going to be like, I love going against the Chicago White Sox team in a pitcher's ballpark. Yeah. He should dominate. But Crochet also should be just fine. Am I looking to lay that big of number for San Francisco? Not necessarily, even though I do think they win this ball game, but probably that 7. I don't know how we get to 8 runs. 2 very good analytical pitchers here going up against lineups that aren't that great in a pitcher's ballpark. Sounds like an under to me.
Yeah, last night by the Bay, it was a 4-1 victory for the Giants over the White Sox. Limited scoring in that game, maybe the case in the third and final. Justin Verlander makes his return for Houston today. He has not pitched since June 9th. Over 2 months, the veteran righty is back on the mound. The Astros, a favorite at home, day baseball in H-Town, minus 144, that updated number. This is the rubber match. Houston won game 1 by a single run, walking it off. The Red Sox victorious yesterday. Jarren Duran, a perfect 4 for 4 at the dish, and the game-winning solo home run in the top of the 8th inning. What can we expect out of Justin Verlander? How does it affect your handicap for the rubber match in Houston?
It's a tough handicap, and maybe just a handicap we've been using here in Houston, Ben, for the past couple nights. You know, quality pitchers might get to the mound, but these lineups really are locking in and looking good. So you got back-to-back overs, and maybe we get that again, because if we focus just on Cooper Criswell for the Boston Red Sox, and we take a look at his road starts this season, he's got 36 innings pitched on the road, Ben, a 5.25 ERA and an xFIP that's 4.63. That's high. You're going up against a lineup. And even if we remove Jose Altuve, who over the past 30 days doesn't have very good numbers against right-handed pitching, which is kind of crazy, but Bregman, Alvarez, Diaz, Pena, Singleton, and Caratini, all elevated numbers, they should hit. They should be able to put up runs. And from a Verlander perspective, let's just say he is very good. Does that mean, Ben, his leash is 115 pitches like back in the day? No. He might probably be going 4 to 5 innings max, which will leave it open to that bullpen to try to get after him. And also, as we take a look at that Boston Red Sox lineup, we love it as well. They've been crushing right-handed pitching over the past month here. Durant, Abreu, Devers, O'Neill, and Yoshida, all with heavy ISO power numbers and weighted on base percentages here. So for my money, instead of just saying like, oh, I think Verlander can be back to form, or I think Criswell's going to be a bad pitcher, I do think we get another over in this game. Afternoon game, not a pitcher's ballpark to say the least. I think we get some runs in this one. We'll keep with that same MO of the past two games.
Both of the first two would have been over this 8.5. 9 runs scored, 5-4. Houston winning game one, 6-5 yesterday for Boston. Jarren Duran was great in the solo home run. Tristan Casas also pretty good, the young first baseman for Boston. 3 RBIs yesterday, 2 for 3 at the dish, and did hit a home run of his own. Some other spots around Major League Baseball. DRS, we're really reaching the time of the year where some games have importance. Others they're already looking forward to next season. If the Royals can continue to hold on, they're a hefty favorite at home today in KC against the Angels. Lost yesterday to the Halos. The Angels a hefty road underdog. The Brewers have an 11.5 game lead over the Cubs. The Cubbies 5.5 games back of the NL Wildcard chase at this moment. They're a home favorite today against the Tigers with Jameson Taillon on the bump.
Yeah, by the way, getting back to that Kansas City-LA game, like Michael Lorenzen's on the mound. And by the way, if you would ask me XFIP minus numbers, just how the pitcher's doing, Lorenzen's actually the worst on the card. But having said that, he's being countered by Johnny Cueto. I think, in 1981, Cueto made his appearance today. Yeah, Cueto is back in Major League Baseball. Good luck with keeping that game under. Whew, boy.
I believe this is his first start of 2024. For the 38-year-old Johnny Cueto. DRS, enjoy the money line. We'll see you tomorrow here on the early line. It continues next.